Good evening. Welcome to this Development Control meeting of Burnley Borough Council on the 8th of October 2020. Council members in attendance are as follows: Councillor Frank Cant, Chair of Development Control; Councillor Mark Payne, Vice Chair of Development Control; Councillor Afrasiab Anwar; Councillor Gordon Birtwistle; Councillor Sue Graham; Councillor Sarah Hall, Councillor John Harbour; Councillor Peter Gill; Councillor Alan Hosker; Councillor Mohammed Ishiak; Councillor Marcus Johnson; Councillor Lubna Khan; Councillor Jeff Sumner. Council officers in attendance are Paul Gattrell, Head of Housing and Development Control; Janet Philbin, Planning Officer; Amanda Rumbelow, Property Solicitor; Emma Barker, Litigation Solicitor; Molly Wiggin, Legal Officer; Christine Wood, Democracy Officer; Alison McEwen, Democracy Officer, who is streaming the meeting; Chris Gay, Governance Manager, hosting the meeting. There are also speakers in attendance at the meeting. They are Claire Bradley, Brian Sumner, Jeff Kirby, and Jonathan Harder. Chair will ask those to speak at the appropriate point in the agenda. Over to you, Chair. Thank you.
Apologies, Chris. Apologies, Chair, but you went then, Chris, when you were reading out the names. Can I just read the names to you and you can tell me whether they're here or not? I'm sorry about that. I know Councillor Frank Cant's here, Councillor Mark Payne's here, Councillor Anwar, Councillor Birtwistle. Is Councillor Chowdhury here?
No.
No. Councillor Peter Gill's here, Councillor Sue Graham's here. Did you say Councillor Sarah Hall? Apologies.
No, she's here.
Right, okay. Councillor John Harbour, is Councillor John Harbour here?
He is indeed.
Right. I think we're okay there. Thank you. Apologies for that.
Chris, can I just come in there, please?
Certainly, Paul.
Yeah, I've just had a call from Erica. The planning officer, Erica Eden Porter, is meant to be in the meeting, but she can't access the meeting. And she's obviously got 3 reports that she's presenting on tonight's agenda.
Okay, Paul, we have sent you the meeting joining instructions. Are you able to send me her phone number and I can call her?
Yeah, I'll send you a phone number, Chris. I'm doing the first 2 reports. If I send you Erica's phone number, and then if you could call her.
Can you do that by council email, please, Paul?
Okay, I'll do that now.
Thanks, sir. Sorry, Chair, over to you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the apologies. Have we any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Anne Kelly, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
and in the minutes which have been recently circulated, I think by email today, would anyone like to move those minutes?
I'll move it, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Sumner.
Yeah, I'll second those minutes, and
Thank you.
if that's fine, thank you. Additional items of business?
No, there are no additional items of business, Chair.
Right, and have we any declarations of interest?
I have not received any declarations of interest, Chair.
Right, thank you. So I'll move on now to exclusion of the public.
As per agenda, Chair.
Right, yeah, thank you. Deposited plans and applications. Tonight's first one is Hope Street, Westthorne with Hurstwood. I think we've got. Did you say Paul?
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul Gattrell.
Paul presenting this report.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be presenting this one, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've no speakers on this one. So
No, Chair. No, Chair, we haven't.
no. So if you would present that report, please, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. This is planning application 2020-0152, which is 8 Hope Street, Worsthorne. The proposal is to replace an existing 2-bed terraced house with a larger 3-bed dwelling Consent was given in 2008 for the partial demolition, rebuild and extension to the dwelling due to structural issues, but unfortunately those issues have been found to be more serious than originally estimated, and it's now considered that full demolition of the property is required. The property has been vacant for some time. The consultation responses, LCC Highways raised no objections to the proposal. Worsthorne Parish Council raised no objection and are supportive of the proposal. We have received one neighbour objection, which has highlighted a concern over loss of privacy from overlooking and reduced sunlight due to overshadowing. We've also received a letter of support from a neighbour who welcomes the proposal, as it will replace the current building that is considered to be in a serious state of disrepair. I'll just briefly run through the main considerations that the case officer has taken into account when assessing the application. The impact on the conservation area. Local and national planning policies ask that we protect and enhance conservation areas when assessing applications for development, and this does fall within Worsthorne conservation area. The materials that will be used are consistent with the previous dwelling and consist of natural stone blocks, sills, jambs and lintels. The roof will be constructed of reclaimed materials to match the original roof, and the correct materials are protected by a condition should the application be approved. The plan also includes the reinstatement of the gable chimney, which is again protected by a condition. The proposed dwelling is larger than the existing dwelling, providing 3-bedroom accommodation. The front door will be located in the centre of the building, providing a formal entrance with windows either side, which emulates the overall appearance of the property at the opposite end of the terrace block. And this can be seen in the officer's report, Chair, on, I think, page 10 of the pack, or the second page of the officer's report. The front elevation build line is consistent with the existing terrace blocks and maintains the interface differences on the properties on Hope Street, and therefore, Chair, the development is not considered to have a detrimental impact on the character or appearance of the conservation area, and it's deemed acceptable. In terms of residential amenity and separation distances, an objection has been received regarding the loss of privacy and loss of sunlight in relation to the rear elevation of this dwelling and the rear elevation of properties on Gordon Street. The property proposed in this application is a larger dwelling than the existing house that's been demolished, and it does have a wider footprint, so we do need to assess the impact. There is a bathroom window within the rear elevation of the extended part of the dwelling, but this is not a habitable room and not therefore considered to cause any privacy issues for the properties on Gordon Street. There's an interface distance of approximately 13 metres from the rear elevation of the proposed dwelling to the facing terrace row on Gordon Street, but this is similar to what's currently being achieved with the rest of the terrace block on that row. There will be some degree of overshadowing created by the new build property, but this will be similar to that created generally by the current terrace row, and is a situation that's not considered unsatisfactory in areas of traditional terraced housing. And for these reasons, Chair, the residential amenity of existing dwellings is not considered to be significantly affected. So finally, impact on parking. There's no impact on parking created by the proposed dwelling, which is in line with local plan policies and creates 2 off-road parking spaces. So in conclusion, the proposed development is not considered to have a detrimental impact on the conservation area, an unacceptable impact on residential amenity. It provides sufficient off-street parking and is therefore recommended for approval with conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Paul. Any member wish to speak?
Councillor Payne, Chair, has requested to speak.
Yeah.
And
Go
Councillor
ahead.
Graham.
For some sweet revenge.
Yeah,
There is nothing in this world that would give me greater and more lasting
go
satisfaction.
ahead, Councillor Payne.
But I can't.
I'd just like to move it for approval.
Right, yeah, thank you very much for that. Councillor Graham?
Hello. Somebody's got the television on and it's difficult to hear what's going on. I was going to move this as well as Councillor Payne. It's very similar to the application that we gave approval to in 2018, and obviously they've encountered difficulties whilst they've been investigating the site. The solution is appropriate, and I second Councillor Payne's move.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Graham.
Is there anybody else?
Would anyone else like to come in? No. It's been moved and seconded. It's been moved and seconded.
Councillor Cant, can I just confirm, is Councillor Mottershead in the meeting?
No.
No. Okay, thank you.
No. Oh, right.
I'll take the vote now, Chair. Thank you. Councillor
Yeah.
Cant, for or against the application for
Yeah,
approval?
for the application.
Councillor Mark Payne?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar? For or approval or against?
For.
Councillor Birtwistle, for approval or against?
For.
Councillor Peter Gill, for approval or against?
Approval.
Councillor Sue Graham, for approval or against?
For approval. We're still getting television interference.
Yeah.
Councillor Sarah Hall, oh, sorry, apologies. Councillor Sarah Hall?
For.
Thank you. Councillor John Harbour, for approval?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Hosker?
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq?
For.
Councillor Marcus Johnston?
For.
Councillor Lubna Khan?
For.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner? Councillor Sumner?
For.
Thank you. The application is approved. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Chair,
Before I move on, I'd just like to ask people to just respect the fact that you should only unmute yourself when there's no background noise and you wish to speak. It is very, very distracting to hear background noise.
Chair, can I just check?
Yes.
I think Erica Eden-Porter has now joined us by phone. Erica, can you just confirm that you are in the meeting? You'll need to unmute yourself. Hello, Erica.
Hello, Chair. It's Erica. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks very much. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Right, I'll move swiftly on if I can. The second application is for Haworth Fold Stables, and I believe
We have
yeah,
a speaker.
we have a speaker, Claire Bradley. So can we bring in Claire to speak?
Yeah, I'm here,
Yeah,
Councillor.
you've got 5 minutes in which to present your case.
Thank you very much. My name's Claire Bradley from Kirkwells Town Planning Consultants, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Mrs. Amanda Berry, the applicant, in relation to this application. This application is for a private all-weather riding arena to be installed by a locally based company that is nationally renowned for providing all-weather arenas across the UK. The objections that have been cited in the officer report refer to surface water flooding and the existing field drainage system and stem from a neighbour dispute many years ago. Field drainage system works efficiently, very efficiently, and the applicant has testimonials from contractors evidencing the efficiency of her drainage of the field. Here's a prime example of how efficient the field drainage is. There's been 25 millimetres of water rainfall in the last 24 hours, and the field's now drained and usable following Storm Alex. In relation to the neighbours, they're currently using the applicant's private field drainage system on her land to drain the surface water runoff from Haworth Lane. At no point have the neighbours looked to alleviate their surface water problems by creating their own system to cope with their own water running off the lanes and gardens, and the applicant continues to allow the neighbours to use her drainage system. Now, in terms of the application, the applicant has show horses and needs a purpose-built surface to provide a safe environment to exercise the horses. The position of the arena is on the flattest area of the site, requiring very little in the way of earthworks to complete it. The location also has excellent natural drainage properties, making it the ideal location within the land ownership. And also there will be a sub-base drainage system installed below the arena to minimise any surface water runoff. The proposed surface, which consists of sand, would provide a much improved drainage system for the area of the site, and the surface acts like a sponge in wet weather. So this proposal will actually result in less water entering the drainage system, will improve the drainage in the area and improve the alleged drainage problems suggested by the neighbours. And if you look at the officer report, the development is fully in accordance with the policies of the Burnley Local Plan, and I trust that you as councillors will support your officer in her recommendation for approval. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Claire. So we move on to Paul Gaskell. Would you
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application is 2020-081 Haworthfold Stables, Haworth Road, Burnley. The proposal is to erect an all-weather riding turnout arena on land off Haworth Road. The land upon which the riding arena is proposed is owned by the applicant and consists of approximately 7.5 acres of predominantly grazing and meadow land. There's also a small stable and store, which together with the proposed riding arena is intended solely for the private use of the applicant. The land has been used as an exercise and turnout area for horses, but the proposed construction of an all-weather facility is to ensure that the land remains safe for the training of horses all year round and is not unduly affected by changing weather conditions. The site has an existing access off Haworth Road. In terms of consultation responses, Chair, LCC Highways raised no objections to the proposal. Environmental Health and the Lead Local Flood Authority have no comments to make. We've also received 2 neighbour objections, which are set out in the officer's report and are predominantly concerned with flooding and drainage, which I'll cover shortly. I'll now briefly run through the main considerations that the officer has taken into consideration in assessing the application. The size and position of the development. The proposed size of the arena is 20 metres wide by 40 metres in length, and its specific location has been chosen due to the relatively flat surface, which will make the construction more straightforward and provide an optimum site for effective drainage with the location of existing land drains. A cross-section of the proposed arena is shown on page 20, or the 4th page of the officer's report, which shows how the arena will look in terms of materials, the surrounding post and rail fence, etc. No lighting is proposed on the development, as the arena will be used in daylight hours only, and the hours of operation are protected by a condition should the application be approved. Land drainage and flood control. The proposed development is not located in a high-risk flood zone area as defined by the Environment Agency, and therefore a flood risk assessment is not required in respect to the proposals. The construction of the arena will be carried out by a specialist installation team and drainage will be provided. The surface materials are of a permeable design to aid the soak-up of surface water, and there will be a series of land drains across the arena in the sub-layer and a perimeter drain to carry away existing rainwater. The applicant states that the development will improve the drainage system and ground conditions of the surrounding area. Based on the information that's been provided with the application, the proposals are considered to comply with local plan policies on development and flood risk and surface water management. Other considerations that have been considered, Chair. The public footpath runs parallel to the south side of this proposed arena, but this will not be affected by the development. There are 2 listed residential buildings on the opposite side of Haworth Road, but the Conservation Officer is satisfied that the development will not be harmful to the setting and significance of the listed building. Therefore, in conclusion, it is considered that the proposals will achieve a development that will only have a very minimal impact and will not adversely affect the character of the landscape or the surrounding area, is in accordance with local plan policies and is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Any member wishing to speak?
Yes, Chair, Councillor Birtwistle.
Councillor Birtwistle? You need to unmute, Councillor Birtwistle.
Brian Howard. Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I think Claire Bradley said pretty much what I was going to say about the site. It's in the rural environment. There has been a stable, and the young lady who has the horses has been there for many years. And I like to propose that we accept this, application. So I am for this application. I will move that.
Right, thank you, councillor Birtwistle. Any
I'll
other
second
member?
it, Chair.
Sorry?
I'll second it, Chair. Councillor Sumner.
Oh, yes, right, yeah, thanks, councillor Sumner. Any further
Shall I go to-
comments? No, well, right, it's been moved
Okay.
and second. Sorry?
Sorry, shall I take the vote?
Oh, yes, yeah, move to the
Sorry,
vote.
councillor Can. Right, councillor Can, for approval or refusal?
Yeah, for approval, yes.
Councillor
Yeah.
Mark Payne.
Approval.
Thank you. Councillor Afrays Anwar.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon Birtwistle. Councillor Birtwistle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Gill.
For.
Councillor Sue Graham.
For.
Councillor Sarah Hall.
For.
Councillor John Harbour.
For.
Councillor Alan Hosker.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq. Councillor Ishtiaq.
Head 4.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus Johnston.
4.
Councillor Lubna Khan.
4.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner.
4.
Thank you. The application is approved. Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you very much, everyone. Next on the agenda is Ken Muir, Burnley Road, Briarcliff. We have one speaker for that, Brian Summer.
Yes, Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Well, I can.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, you've got 5 minutes, by the way.
Good evening. Can I start?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chairman and members all. I am Brian Sumner from Avalon Town Planning. I'm the agent on this planning application. The difference between the applicant and the officers in this case is a semantic one, in my view, because what we're talking about is visual impact and effect on character and appearance of the area. We're not talking about a specific full-on policy breach, as in an inappropriate development or breach of some kind of, for example, privacy guideline that the council operates now with the new development plan. When members are considering the impact of this proposal on character and appearance, there are several matters I'd like members to consider. First, we are at the end of these little row of semi-detached houses, so we are not filling a gap between this semi-detached house and the house adjacent. There is a very large gap at the side where this extension is going, which has trees along it. And there is certainly room to physically get this extension in visually without massing up and filling up the street scene. Secondly, there is quite a fall in levels between the end of the existing gable of the house and where we're proposing the extension, which is why it drops down in level to 3 stories at the back. But because of those drop in levels and the raise in the road level, it's not that visually intrusive, in my view, as it would appear in the 2D plan. Thirdly, this house is a very, very narrow 2-bedroom house at the moment. And it does, in my view, need upgrading to a family style house for modern requirements. And that's exactly what the applicant is trying to do. When you look at the design we've submitted, Chairman, we have set the extension back from the front elevation. We have tried to line through the design features that the existing house represents. And that design input from ourselves has been conceded by the applicant as being required. We put it before you that it is an appropriate scheme. It is now to keep with the character of the area. And if you apply normal, sensible judgment, I think you'll hopefully conclude the same. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Summer. Now, the officer's report is by telephone. It's Erica that's doing this. Can we get through to Erica?
Hello, can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, I can. Well, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. This report is for application HOU 2020-0275, and it is for Kenmure Burning Road Fire Cliff. The application is before committee because it has been called in and no objections have been received. The application relates to a post-war semi, one of a number of similar properties that step up the hill to Hargate Crossroads in a prominent roadside location. The sloping nature of the site is such that the rear part of the house is three-storied, and the nature of the surroundings are set out in the opening paragraph of the report. Notice to be taken to the existence of the public footpath to the west that provides views to the rear of the site. This application seeks permission for a relatively large side extension, its width being 5.5 metres and its depth being 7.5 metres, with a proposed rear dormer across the existing and extended roof with a width of 7.3 metres and a form that is box-like. The extension will increase the number of bedrooms from 2 to 6. Complementary materials are proposed and 3 parking spaces are provided on an extended driveway. In terms of consultation responses, Highway recommends conditions relating to the construction of the driveway. The principle of the development is supported by the local plan, provided that the scale and design is compatible and proportionate to the existing dwelling and does not result in an intrusive form of development, and does not give rise to unacceptable amenity issues. So the visual impact has been assessed against the relative policy SP5 criteria A to E as set out in the report. It is considered that the proposal fails to meet criteria A and B in that it is overly dominant in scale and massing, such that it does not have a subordinate relationship to the host building. The key factors as set out in the report are that the width exceeds that of the main house to the extent that the original house reads as subordinate, and it creates a significant imbalance in form and rhythm when considered as a pair with its attached house, to the extent that it would have a harmful visual impact within the street scene. In terms of the dormer, owing to its substantial width and box form, it would overly dominate the roof slope and not represent or respect the existing architecture of the roof. And during the determination period, the officer has engaged with the agent to seek amended plans to address the shortcomings in the design, but no revisions have been made. In terms of amenity, it does not give rise to any unacceptable loss of amenity. And for the reasons articulated in the report, the application is recommended for refusal.
Thank you, Erica. So again, I will open it up to members.
Councillor Graham and Councillor Anwar have requested to speak, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with the officer's report. It's a modest original dwelling, and the extensions proposed are overbearing and totally out of proportion to the existing dwelling. And also, you have to recognise the dwelling next door. I do understand about the levels, and the existing dwelling has got 3 stories, obviously, at the back. I do understand about that, but I have to say that particularly the rear dormer extension is a step too far. I think it would work much better without that. And there's a very pleasant area behind these houses where a lot of people walk. It's used for recreation. And to be able to see this will be quite an eyesore from those public footpaths at the rear. So I agree with the officer's report. I think we should refuse this. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Chair. On this one, I think I've got to disagree with my colleague, Councillor Graham in the sense that when I first saw this application when it came through, I think what stood out to me is that the property looks in disrepair, and obviously the applicant wants to bring it up and turn it into a family home. It looks like a small property, and what they want to do is turn it into a large family home and habitable and bring it up to scratch and up to standard. And I think that, you know, on the application when it says that it's a 3-story extension, I think it's misleading because of what you know, the elevation at the back. And when you look at it from the front, then it doesn't actually have an impact on the street scene as has been suggested. And you've got the trees on the one side, and then again reading at the application, and as alluded by Councillor Graham, that there is nothing at the back. There is a large paddock, as it says, and I don't think it will have a negative impact on the street scene. There's been no objections received from what the report says from anybody else in terms of any of the neighbours, and nothing from Highways objecting to the actual application there. So I'd like to move it for approval, please.
Can I come in
yeah.
then and second that for approval, Chair?
Yeah, can I just reply to Councillor Anwar? You would be going against officer recommendation, which will obviously be a name vote. So if you're moving it, you're actually rejecting it.
Chair, can I just come in there, please?
Yeah. Yes, of course you can.
Chair, because the application was recommended for refusal and it's been moved and seconded for approval, then full and detailed reasons will need to be given for that approval, and also the planners would need to come up with some conditions that would need to be attached to that approval.
Yeah, can I just correct you? It hasn't been moved and seconded for approval. We've got one.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, so I think what I've said has been. Sorry, Chair, to interrupt, but yeah. So for approval for so not refusal. So I'm moving it for approval for the application. So it's not. I'm going against what, as you say, I'm going against the recommendation of the officers, because and the issue. Yeah.
So basically, Councillor Anwar, you're against. You're not for the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we've got one, Councillor Graham, that's for the application. You are against the application. So it hasn't been moved and seconded.
So if it is seconded, Chair, for going against officer recommendation, if that motion is now seconded, then there will have to be full reasons for going against the recommendation.
But at the present time, it hasn't been moved and seconded for either. It's been moved for refusal. Am I correct?
No, I think the officer is correct on this.
Maybe I misheard. I thought I'd heard somebody second it, Chair, but maybe I'd misheard.
Yeah, somebody seconded it.
Yes.
I was having problem unmuting myself. I seconded Councillor Anwar that this application should be approved, because, and the reason for that is I personally, having looked at the proposed development, I don't think he's overbearing. I disagree with the council officers there. Where the extension is proposed, I think there's looking at the plans, there's sufficient land, and also correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of the development, it's set back, so that for means there's a clear distinction that is a extension there, that it isn't making any change. There's a clearly extension to the building, and the original house, I think, in terms of the site wise, I think it's very small. So those are the reasons I can think of. And in terms of the neighbouring, there hasn't been any complaints or any concerns. So I personally think we should look to approve this application. So I want to second for approval.
Right. Yeah.
If that's going to be the case, Chair, then the mover, Councillor Anwar, needs to, as well as putting forward the 4 reasons, also any conditions that would need to be attached to the approval before it can be taken to a vote. The other option is for for that motion to be withdrawn, just to see how many people would be for the refusal. Otherwise, coming up with 4 reasons and conditions is going to be a fruitless exercise if it is ultimately going to go with the officer's recommendation.
If I could come in there, please, Chair.
Yes. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, if it's been moved for approval and seconded for approval, and we're going to move to the vote, one option that we do have is that it's delegated to me to approve the application subject to conditions. I don't think there would be anything attached to the application other than standard conditions. There would be one about materials matching the horse dwelling. There would be one about the time, the 3 years for development, and we would obviously attach a standard condition that it's developed in accordance with the approved plans. But I think, Chair, if the mover and seconder are comfortable, then my recommendation, if we do move to the vote, is to delegate to me to approve the application subject to relevant standard conditions.
Can I come in, Chair?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. If Councillor Ishtiaq is.
Yeah, I'm happy with that too. Yeah.
Chair, Councillor Harbour's requested to speak.
Yeah. Councillor Harbour, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to support the officer's recommendations and support my colleague Councillor Graham on this. I think members are absolutely kidding themselves if they think that this extension is in keeping. You may as well drive a coach and horses through our policies regarding extensions being subservient to the original building. And to say that we're going from a 2-bedroomed property to a 6-bedroom property and it's going to have no effect, is, in my opinion, nonsense. I appreciate when you look at the actual plans, they're well drawn up. I also appreciate that there has been no complaints from neighbours, etc. But on the planning committee, you take everything into consideration, not just whether you get a complaint from a neighbour or not. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Are there any further comments?
Can I just raise a question to the officers?
What's that? Councillor
Ishtiaq, Councillor Ishtiaq here. It's in response to Councillor Harbour in terms of, nonsense that this building isn't subservient. Is that proportion to the size of the land where the extension is being proposed? So if the existing house is 2-bedroom but has enough space to make it into 6-bedroom, does that make any difference? Is that, surely it's set back and, there's plenty of space to build and, there's surplus land around it. So is being subservient, is that subjective?
Would you like to come in on that, Councillor Harbour? On you.
Chair, if I was a planning officer, I would gladly come in on that. I thought these questions were down to actually officers themselves, but I still stand by my remarks.
Right, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I just thought you might like to respond, that's all. Right, is there any further? I know yes, Councillor Graham, I know that you've proposed that we refuse. It's been seconded by.
Can I?
Yes.
Sorry, I did put in another request to speak, Councillor Cant.
Oh yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, I know it's really awkward. I've chaired meetings with dozens of people, and you really struggle to keep up with what's going on. Councillor Ishak asked about subservience, and it's subservience to the existing building. It's not. It doesn't matter how much land you've got around it. The principle relating to extensions is that they should be subservient to the existing building, and this more than doubles the size of the existing building. So that's part of the consideration that the officers will have made. And again, you know, I do consider that the officers have looked thoroughly at this, and I do agree with their assessment. So I am moving. I don't know whether I did before. I can't remember.
Yes,
I am moving.
You move for refusal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Chair.
Yes, no problem. And it was backed up by Councillor Harbour. So we have a mover, and I'll take that first because we've got a mover and the seconder for the officer recommendation, which is for refusal. Yeah. Right.
No, can you hear? Yeah, I'm unmuted. I just want to refer back to the suggestion that was made by the head of planning, by Paul Gattrell, that if it can be approved with conditions applied and delegated to him. So that's what I'd like to go with.
And I'd be happy to second that if it can go back to the offices for consideration and any conditions to be put on this application, and then they can address. So delegated approval, yeah.
Could I just come in there, please, Chair?
Basically, we're looking at delegation rather than.
Yeah, could I just come in there, please, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do.
So my suggestion to delegate it to myself for approval, subject to the relevant conditions, would still need to be voted on, Chair. That would still need to be a decision that committee vote on in the same way. So committee would still be voting to delegate for approval, subject to the relevant conditions. As the democracy officer has said, that was moved and seconded first. So I think due process, Chair, is to take that vote first and then move on from there.
Right.
Okay.
So
I'll take the vote, Chair.
Yeah.
We're voting to the vote is to go against officer recommendation to approve the application with delegated powers to Paul Gattrell. So I'll take the vote now. So Councillor Cant, do you wish to approve the application or refuse?
Yeah, I would like to approve it on for delegation. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Payne, do you wish to approve on delegation or refuse? Councillor Payne?
Against.
You're against approval?
Against, yeah.
Councillor Anwar, do you wish to approve the application or refuse?
For approval.
Councillor Gordon Birchmichael, do you wish to approve the application or refuse?
Refuse.
Councillor Peter Gill, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Sue Graham, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
I think the application should be refused.
Councillor Sarah Hall, do you wish to approve the application or refuse?
Refuse.
Councillor John Harbour, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Alan Hosker, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
I have to back the office on this one. Refuse.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed Ishaq, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Yeah, approve for
Approve.
to delegate.
Councillor Marcus Johnston, do you wish to approve the application or refuse?
Refuse.
Refuse. Councillor Lubna Khan, do you wish to refuse the application or approve?
Approve for delegation.
Pardon?
Approve.
You wish to approve the application, yeah?
Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah.
Councillor Lubna Khan, you wish to refuse the application or approve it?
Approve. Can you hear me? Sorry, it's approve for delegation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Refuse.
Yeah.
So on that vote, the application is refused. Right. Okay. Apologies for that. So to refuse the application, Councillor Frank Plant, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
For
approval.
For refusal, yeah.
For refusal?
Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Mark Payne, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
For.
For refusal?
Yes, for refusal.
Councillor Afraiz Anwar, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
So against.
Councillor Gordon Burswhittle, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
For refusal.
Refuse. Councillor Peter Gill, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
For refusal.
Councillor Sue Graham, do you wish to refuse or approve?
I'm for refusal.
Refusal. Councillor Sarah Hall, do you wish to refuse the application or approve?
For refusal.
Refusal. Councillor John Harbour, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
For refusal.
Councillor Alan Hosker, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
For refusal.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, do you wish to refuse or approve the application? Sorry, Councillor Ishtiaq, I didn't get that.
Approve.
Approve. Councillor Marcus Johnson, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Luke Khan, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Approve.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Refuse. The application is refused.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the conclusion is that application's been refused. So we'll move on to next item on the agenda, which is West Street in Padiham. We do have a speaker for this one. So
Mrs. Jackson.
Chair, we did have two speakers, but Yvonne Jackson has withdrawn her request to speak. So currently there is just one speaker on this item, Chair.
Oh yeah, is it Jeff Kirby?
Mr. Jeff Kirby.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Mr. Kirby, are we?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got 5 minutes in which to put your case.
Okay, thank you. My wife and I are the owners of this property, and we would like to speak in favour of this application, which will allow us to move into an area that we love and also be close to our ageing and sickling relatives, which is why we bought this property. Obviously, this is very important to us. The cottage in question is minute inside. It's very, very, very small. The kitchen at the rear is tiny. It is very damp, mouldy and dark. The bathroom at the rear upstairs is in a very similar condition. The cottage is narrow. In fact, I think it's probably the narrowest cottage on the row. It can't be extended at the front and is not able to provide an acceptable living space to today's standards. The proposed extension at the rear is in a large part permitted development. The first floor extension that's proposed is modest. It should be noted that the external rear extension of the property is very simple in appearance, just a rendered wall with no features of interest. It is one of many different styles to the rear of these properties. There is no overall consistency in the styles at the rear of these properties. Our proposal will not impact on the designated on any designated feature, and it will not affect the heritage interest of the building. The rear extension wall of the building is not in itself an original feature. It has been replaced relatively recently. It is single skin, brick or blockwork. It is damp and has poor thermal properties. It needs to be replaced. Throughout the planning application process, we worked positively and responsibly with the council's officers to meet any concerns that they have raised. We only wish now that we are able to proceed without any further delay. There have been some objections from the neighbours as documented in the officer's report, but most of these are not relevant to a planning decision, which should focus on whether the proposal aligns with planning policy. In any case, the objections have been carefully considered by the council's planning officers. However, just a few of the objections are worthy of a mention here. Despite what the objector actually says, there will only be a small loss of a very poor quality garden area, the majority of which is lawn or stone flag. And despite what is said, there will be no impact on mature trees or shrubs. Also, despite what is said, there will be no impact on any communal pathway or access to neighbours' properties. Shared boundaries will be made good wherever they are affected, and the works will be carried out by professional builders, obviously under the control of the building inspector, which should mean that the works are carried out properly and with due care and attention to the neighbours' interests. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and we very much hope that you will support our application so that we can move on with our lives in this extremely difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirby. I'll move now to Erica, who hopefully she's still on the phone.
She is still in the
Erica?
meeting, Chair. She is still in the meeting, Chair. Erica,
Hello?
can you hear us?
Yeah, yeah, if
Hello.
you present your report on West Street, please.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
Chair?
I can
Yes,
hear you.
you can hear me. Okay. This report, HOU 2020-0137, sets out in significant detail the consideration that has been given to this proposal. I'll attempt to summarise very briefly the key points. The application, it relates to a mid-terrace cottage located in Padiham Conservation Area. The building does have heritage value at a local level as an early 19th century handloom weaver's cottage, and it does offer a modest level of accommodation with a lounge and a small kitchen to the ground floor, one bedroom and a bathroom to the first floor. And whilst the property makes a positive contribution to the character and appearance of the conservation area, the rear elevation, which is subject to this application, does not hold the same degree of value. The application seeks permission for a part two-storey and part single-storey extension to the rear of the property. It is relatively modest in scale. The single-storey extension will project 3 metres from the rear elevation and cover the majority of the width of the rear elevation, and the first floor has been stepped in by 1 metre. And the proposed materials complement the existing. It's been noted that the sloping rear garden will be excavated down to 1.5 metres in order to facilitate the extension. And the report summarises the objections that have been received. I hope it does so sufficiently clearly. The property is a mid-terrace position, and that is always sensitive in terms of accommodating two-storey extensions. With this in mind, during the determination period, the plans have been altered to reduce the impact on neighbouring amenity to what is considered to be an acceptable level, paying particular regard to the impact on the outlook of the nearest habitable room window to the neighbour number 74. The report sets out in detail the considerations in respect of design and appearance that have led to the view that the design is suitably subordinate and would not detract from the visual amenity of the host building and its surroundings, including, quite importantly, the character and appearance of the conservation area. Conditions are recommended to ensure that the development will be of a satisfactory appearance. In terms of the impact on amenity, this has been assessed in relation to the properties either side. In respect of number 74, the first floor of the extension has been designed so as not to breach the 45-degree splay from the centre of the nearest neighbouring window, which is a ground floor kitchen. Therefore, it is mitigating the impact on the outlook and the loss of light. The ground floor extension does encroach slightly into that splay, but it is considered that the impact will be mitigated by the low-rise nature of the ground floor extension and the fact that it does sit 1.5 metres lower than the garden at number 74 and is separated by an existing stone wall of around 1 metre in height. So really on balance, it has been considered that the extension as is designed would not create an overbearing impact or cause significant unacceptable harm to living conditions of the occupants of number 74. Turning to number 78, as you can see within the cross-section in the photograph included in the report, that number 78 already projects forward of the application property such that the degree of projection to the ground floor is limited to 0.8 metres in length. That will be visible against the boundary between the two properties, but again, the low-rise nature of that part of the extension and the land levels are such that it would not cause an acceptable harm. So for the reasons articulated in the report, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Erica. Again, over to members.
No request to speak received presently, Chair.
No.
Oh, there's one just now from Councillor Graham and then Councillor Gill.
Yeah, Councillor Graham. You need to unmute.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
I know. I'm unmuted. Sorry, I had something else on the
Okay.
screen. I had the chat screen on the screen with the right to speak. I am in favour of this application. I think it's of a fairly modest size, and I know. I mean, the plans in the report aren't brilliant, I have to say, but I noticed that the first floor is stepped back from the rear of the. The first floor is stepped back from the rear of the ground floor, and that therefore reduces the impact, particularly in relation to number 74. Number 70, whatever it is on the other side, does not matter so much because it's faced forward to this property. But the relationship with number 74 obviously was important. So I think that in the determination and the negotiations with the applicant, enough has been done to make this acceptable. And I would be happy to go along with the officer report and have this application approved. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I'm assuming I'll take notice that you've moved it.
I'm happy to move it. Thank you, Chair.
Right, yeah, thank you. Councillor Gill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, with me being the ward councillor, but being the borough councillor for this area, I don't like the idea of when it comes to conservation areas having anything done to them. We've spent, and Burnley Council have done a fantastic job in pulling in funding for the heritage in the town. And I find heritage, especially Padiham heritage, very, very, very important. Now, I know when it comes to Census 6, as it says in the reports, and I've been working with the officers, but when it comes to number 78, how it sits a lot more forward, that were in addition to West Street, that they were built many moons after. I know number 74, 72 were the original cottages there, very, very early days. And what concerns me is they've been there that long, is when they start excavating, I'm just thinking of the footings for the neighbours' housing, as well as I know a couple of years ago, number 72 also had a rejection for a two-storey. So for me, I'm going to have to go against, and I'm going to have to reject this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Anwar is requested to speak.
Yeah, Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say on this one, I think, again, it's one of those properties that's in disrepair and needs a lot of work to it. And, you know, the owner wants to, the applicant wants to invest in it and, you know, bring it up to scratch and make it habitable and develop the property. And similar to what Councillor Graham said, I'd like to second this application for approval.
Right, thank you. Any other member?
None received, Chair. No request received.
No. Right, well, it's been moved and seconded. Suggest that we go to the vote.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cant, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
No, I'll approve the application.
Approve, thank you. Councillor Mark Payne, do you wish to approve or refuse?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar, approve or refuse?
For.
Councillor Gordon Burnswhittle, approve or refuse?
For approval.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Gill, approve or refuse?
Refuse.
Councillor Sue Graham, approve or refuse?
I'm for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Hall, approve or refuse?
Approve.
Councillor John Harbour, approve or refuse?
For approval.
Councillor Alan Hosker, approve or refuse?
Abstain.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, approve or refuse?
Approve.
Councillor Marcus Johnston, approve or refuse?
Approve.
Councillor Lubna Khan, approve or refuse?
Approve.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, approve or refuse?
Abstain on this one, please.
Abstain. The application is approved.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, the next application is for St James's Street, Burnley. With no speakers on this one, so I'll move directly to you, Erica, to present this report. No, have we lost Erica?
Erica, you are still in the meeting. Can you hear us? If you just bear with me, Chair, I'll try and give her a call.
Right, okay, thanks. Right, yeah, whenever you're ready, Eric. We're on St James's Street.
Erica, can you hear my voice? It's Chris Gay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Erica. Can you hear us? Erica, can you hear us?
Hello, I can hear you.
Yeah, Erica, we can hear you. We're on item E, which is 66 St James Street. Are you able to present your report? Can you hear me?
Do we move on to the next report, Chair, and see if we can resolve that problem?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, right, no problem. Right, the next.
That Lane House
6F,
Farm,
Chair.
Chair. Is that Lane House Farm, Burnley Road, Cliviger, Chair?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think we've no speakers on this one.
I believe Janet
I think it's Janet's presenting this report.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening.
So it's the application FUL 2020-0092. The proposal is to demolish approximately 55% of the existing farmhouse and rebuild with a new front elevation to face the easterly direction, a remodelled north-facing elevation, and a new south elevation with large areas of glazing and a balcony. A new tarmac driveway would be formed to utilise an existing access between 357 and 359 Burnley Road. The proposed extensions would significantly alter the appearance of the farmhouse, but have been modified through the application process to rationalise the size of the new projecting gables. The Parish Council has objected to the proposal on the grounds of overdevelopment and parking issues. In respect of the first of these, the enlarged dwelling would only have a slightly larger footprint than the existing dwelling, amounting to an additional 14 square metres, which is an 8% increase, which is only minor as a proportion. The appearance of the remodelled dwelling has attempted to retain some of the vernacular form of traditional buildings, whilst also creating some more modern elements. The visual impact of the proposed changes would not have any significant harm to the character of the village or the open countryside. Free car parking spaces would be provided, which satisfies the parking requirements. The proposals are therefore considered to be acceptable and should be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Right, yeah, thank you very much. And again, we'll take it over to members.
No request currently to speak, Chair.
No. Would anyone like to make a proposal?
Move
Can
it,
I
Chair.
second that? Can I second that to move it?
Right, well, moved and seconded, I presume, Marcus and
Councillor
Oscar. Yeah, thank you very much for that. If there's no further comments, we'll move to the vote then. This is a vote for approval.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Cant, do you approve or refuse the application?
Yes, I'll approve this one.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Payne, do you approve or refuse?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Gordon Trickle, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Peter Gill, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Sue Graham, for or against approval?
For approval.
Councillor Sarah Hall, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor John Harbour, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Alan Hosker, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Marcus Johnston, for or against approval?
For.
Councillor Lubna Khan, for or against approval?
For.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, for or against approval?
For, please.
Thank you. The application is approved.
Right, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Chair, it's Chris Gay.
Yeah.
Erica is back in the meeting. Erica, can you hear us? Hello, Erica? If possible. Erica, can you hear me? Would it be possible
Hello?
to take? Yes, hello,
Hello?
Erica. Erica?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Am I back?
You are indeed, yes. Can I suggest, Chair, we go back to item 6E?
Yeah, the St James's Street.
Yes. Okay, if you can all hear me, I'll go. This application relates to the ground floor of a vacant retail unit in the town centre, and it's protected as primary retail frontage. The application is seeking permission to change the use to a flexible range of uses, including A1, A2, A3 and A4. The retail unit has been marketed for over 2 years now for A1 use without any success in attracting an end user, and this has led to this application which seeks to broaden the range of uses to find an operator and secure a use for this prime town centre location. As the report sets out in a great amount of detail the considerations that have led to the recommendation, and what is key really is understanding the planning balance, which is that the recent changes to the use class order means that the change of use of this unit to A1, A2 or A3 is no longer classed as development, so that could happen without the need for planning permission. So we're looking really at the proposed A4 use, which is a drinking establishment. And it is considered that this is a suitable town centre use. Our town centre needs to diversify to respond to the rapid changes, really, in the retail and leisure industries, and that this use would increase the chances of securing an end user and would help to increase footfall along the shopping area. On the basis, the proposal would make use of a long-term vacant unit consistent with the town centre uses and fulfilling many of the functions of a retail unit by retaining an active ground floor frontage and generating footfall along the street. It would help to support and sustain other retail uses within the primary shopping area. Although significant weight is placed on the local plan, which aims to protect this location for A1 use, in this instance, it's found that these other material considerations will outweigh the conflicts with the development plan, and that indicates that permission should be granted. And it is recommended that the application is approved with conditions.
Right, thank you very much, Erica.
Thank you.
Have we any member wishing to
We
speak?
we have, Chair. Councillor Payne's requested to speak.
Councillor Payne, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If we can't get anyone to rent it, this property as it stands, then we need to try something different, don't we? So I'd like to move this for approval.
All right, thank you. Any other member?
Happy to second that.
Right, yeah, thank you, Councillor Graham. If we've no further comments, we'll
No, I
move,
think we can move to the vote, Chair.
move to the vote. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Frank Cant, do you approve the application or refuse?
Yeah, I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Payne.
For.
Councillor Afraiz Anwar.
For.
Councillor Gordon Birchwhistle.
For.
Councillor Peter Gill.
For.
Councillor Sue Graham.
For.
Councillor Sarah Hall.
For.
Councillor John Harbour.
For.
Councillor Alan Hosker.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq.
For.
Councillor Mark. Oh, sorry. Ooh. Councillor. Did I say Councillor Marcus Johnson? I'm sorry.
I think he tried to say Marcus Johnston, but
Right, thank you.
I've got the overall drift. I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Lubna Khan.
For.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner.
For.
Thank you. The application is approved. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, moving on nicely to the next application, which is the Bourne Hollins Farm, Redleys Road. Yeah, again with no speakers, so it's Janet who is doing this one. This application's for refusal, recommended for refusal.
Thank you, Chair. It's the barn at the Hollins Farm, FUL 2020-071. It's a resubmission of a previously refused application for a bungalow within the garden of the barn. The proposal is slightly modified since the previous refusal by the removal of an integral garage. The site is within the open countryside, 250 metres outside of the development boundary, and is part of an historic set of farm buildings comprising 3 Grade 2 listed buildings and other non-designated heritage assets. The site is also part of an ecological network for woodland habitats. There is a TPO on adjacent trees and a group of 3 lime trees within the site, which are not protected, but do have conservation and cultural value. The proposed bungalow would be positioned to the south part of the site, overlooking the shared yard. Policy SP4 states that development in the countryside would be strictly controlled. New dwelling at this location would therefore be contrary to the settlement policies of the local plan. The agenda report has also assessed the proposal in respect to its overall impacts and finds that it would create unjustified harm to the setting of listed buildings and other non-designated heritage assets. It would lead to pressure for the removal of valued trees and would have a significantly detrimental impact on the rural character of the site and its setting within the open countryside. The proposal therefore represents inappropriate and harmful development that would be contrary to the adopted local plan and should be refused for the reasons set out in the agenda report. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. I think I've got Councillor Birtwhistle who wishes to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to speak on this. I mean, I'm tempted to feel like this is not, that we could approve this, but following what's been said earlier by an officer to say we have to come up with the reasons why we disagree with our officers, I think some of it's the way we take a view on some of the issues that are involved here. If you look at the principles of development on page 70, it states that policy SP1 states that when considering the development proposals, Burnley Borough Council will take a positive approach that reflects the presumption in favour of the sustainable development set out in the NPPF. If you turn over to page 71, it says there the application fails to demonstrate that there is a genuine need for a new dwelling in this location. However, this in itself is not sufficient grounds to resist the principles of residential development, particularly as the NPPF in paragraphs 78 and 79 is supportive of a rural housing development that avoids the introduction of new isolated homes in the countryside and is a sustainable form of development in a rural area. In considering the site as a greenfield site and outside the development boundary, the principle of a new development on the site is contrary to the current local plan and is currently current to local national planning policy. I thought that we adopted the national planning policy. Most of the time I've been on this committee, we've always worked with the national planning policy, and we've agreed or disagreed with the views of the national planning policy when we've either approved or rejected various planning applications over many years. Now, we're either for the national planning policy or we're against the national planning policy. Half of this report says we're happy to do it, and the other half says we want to reject it. So if we go on to the effect of the proposal on the residential amenity, it basically, if you read through all that there, it doesn't have any effect on the residential amenity whatsoever in that area. It is a small bungalow being built in a small hamlet off quite a distance from the road in the grounds. Now, I know where this site is, and I think from memory there's quite a big wall that goes around the small hamlet, and this is outside of that wall. So obviously the residents that live inside the hamlet, I don't think they will be affected by this. I do take a point about the trees, and I understand from the report that that concern about the trees with TPOs on is an important issue, and I'm sure the developer who is doing this, I guess, will be very conscious of this and will ensure that any tree concerns were certainly met, and he wouldn't do anything to destroy the trees in that area. So I would like to move that this application is approved. But listening to what the officer said before, if I'm going against the officer recommendations, other than say what I've basically said, that half the report says we should agree with national planning policies and the other half says that we'll go against them, I'm confused. I'm sure that other members of this committee who are not qualified planning officers will also be confused. I will have to take some advice on how we would word the proposal to accept this rather than the officer's recommendation to reject it. So I look forward to that advice that we can put into the way that we word things that disagree with our officers. It is a matter of our officers, a lot of it is their opinion. On this occasion, I don't agree with their opinion. Am I allowed to disagree with their opinion? When they write in a report that they want us to agree with national planning frameworks, and the other half of the report say, no, they don't, but they're not going to allow this. It's within it, but we're not going to have it. How on earth are we supposed to make decisions like this? So I would like to propose that we allow this application, because I think it's within the planning framework. I think it's within a lot of our planning guidance. It's not certainly an extreme development. but I would need some advice on what I say when I go against the officer recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, yeah, thank you, Councillor Birdsall.
Chair.
Would you, well, I was going to ask if Janet would like to respond to that before
Yeah,
we
she's
move.
requested to provide a clarification, I think,
Oh,
Chair.
right, yeah,
And
thank you.
Councillor Graham, and then Councillor Graham and Councillor Sumner have requested to speak as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The NPPF more leans towards supporting development in the countryside, which actually supports existing rural communities. It doesn't, for instance, indicate that you should allow development in the countryside. It supports the whole ethos of restricting development in the countryside and focusing development in existing communities. So I don't really think there's a difference of opinion there between the NPPF and the local plan policy SB4, which clearly states that development in the countryside should be strictly controlled. They are consistent, those policies are consistent, they've been rigorously tested through the local plan process to make sure there's consistency between the local plan policies and the NPPF. And so I don't think from a policy perspective there is any conflict or difference of opinion in that case. Clearly there are reasons why the report explains that development would be contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework and to local plan policies. It would be harmful to the rural character of the area, to the setting of the countryside, to historic buildings, including 3 Grade 2 listed buildings. So there are tangible reasons in this case why this proposal would be harmful and therefore it should be rejected. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation. Good. Councillor Graham, which to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, Councillor Birtusel has been on Development Control Committee for a long time. And he, I'm sure, realises that when he sees a report, that what the officers are trying to do is to put all the pros and cons of the proposal before the members, and then to make an assessment using their professional judgment. And that's what you see in the considerations and the recommendation. I've gone through the report very carefully, and I do remember the previous application that came before us, and this is slightly reduced in size. The application is not in keeping at all with that small hamlet of Hollins, and it's a very important small hamlet that it's been protected throughout the local plan process over a number of years. I mean, a few years ago there was a proposal to turn the fields between the Hollins and Redleys Road into a massive housing estate, and that was thrown out by the local plan in one of its previous iterations. So these precious buildings and the trees and the landscape around it have been protected by planning officers and by members for a number of years. The trees are magnificent, and any destruction of even a part of them will have an impact on the landscape in this part of the countryside. The design of the bungalow, I have to say, is pretty awful when you compare it to the surrounding buildings, because it is not at all in keeping with the surrounding buildings, especially with that protruding gable, as the officers have quite clearly stated. So to go to the reason for refusal, it's outside the development boundary, not considered to be in a sustainable location. I would agree with that. It doesn't preserve the setting of the existing stable block and the rest of the hamlet. It'll be a distraction, if you like, from the historic buildings that are grouped nearby. And it would set a precedent in that area. You may well find that you get further applications for this type of modern bungalow in that area, and I think that would be very unfortunate. And it would be detrimental to the trees not only the one that the mature lime tree that's identified in the report, but potentially to that other trees. You know, once you start losing part of a grouping of trees, it can have a very damaging impact on the rest of them. Thank you, Chair. I move we refuse, by the way. I'll remember that. I move that we go to refusal.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Graham. Sorry,
Councillor Sumner, Chair. Councillor Sumner.
Councillor Sumner. Yeah. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've read through the report. I've actually been down to the Hollins farm and had a look round. I'm not sure how many other members have done that, but I certainly have. I've seen the report and it mentions really it's about trees and listed buildings. What I've picked up on here is 3 mature limes and 1 young oak tree. In the new application, the architect shows a 3-metre gap between the tree and the new build. And that's where, if any work needs to be done to the lime tree in question, it can be done. Another one is, no, it doesn't mention, well, it does mention, sorry, planning permission was granted for the barn in 2022, sorry, and planning permission was again granted in 1999 to erect a double garage. So obviously, planning permission has been granted twice there in the previous years. The double garage will be demolished and the bungalow will be sited there. On the consultation responses, there's been no comments received on any of the consultations. The proposal is not considered to result in any significant adverse impact on the residential amenity. But one of my concerns is, not half a mile away from Hollins Farms is Townley Hall. And you'll all know, which is a listed Grade 1 building. And we did allow planning to join a new modern building, shop and reception area. Now, we're trying to refuse the plan application for this one, where there's already had planning and that, against, well, like Sue said there, it doesn't come into the making of the area. So I can't see how this one at the Townley Hall, a modern building, comes into looking good like it does for Townley Hall, the history and the build of that building. So I think it should be approved, and I will second Gordon Birtwhistle's approval for application. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Chair, Councillor Graham and Councillor Anwar have requested to speak.
I'll let Councillor Anwar speak, as Councillor Graham's already spoken. Councillor
Thank you,
Anwar?
Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to second that this application is for refusal. So I'd just like to second what Councillor Graham said.
Councillor Graham, right, yeah. Okay, thank you. And back to Councillor Graham.
Councillor Sumner said about the trees. 3 metres is absolutely no distance away from a mature tree, such as an oak or a lime. This building would have a damaging effect on the trees. I think it says that quite clearly in the officer's report. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Any further comments?
Chair, if I can just briefly come in there again, because it's because the recommendations for refusal, it's been moved and seconded for approval first. Like Councillor Birtwistle said, he needs to come up with sufficient reasons as to why he's going against the officer's decision. Now, I know he mentioned about asking for some advice on that, but at the end of the day, they are Councillor Birtwistle's reasons for moving it for approval, and we can't really advise on what he needs to say for those reasons, but it really does need to be clear so that anybody reading the minutes would understand why he's gone against the officer recommendation. Thank you, Chair. And then maybe Paul Gattrell wants to come in as to whether it would be suitable for delegation.
Right, Chair, do you want to come in then, Paul?
Yeah, yes, Chair. Just to say that if we do get to a situation where it's moved and seconded and we go to a vote for approval of the application, then I think we can take the same route that we took with the previous application. And as long as Councillor Birtwistle as the mover and Councillor Sumner as a seconder is happy to delegate it for approval subject to the necessary conditions, then that would be the advice that I would give. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Are you happy with that, Councillor Birtwistle and Councillor Sumner? That it was approved with delegation?
Better get back on.
I'll unmute you, Councillor Birtwistle.
I can't. Here we are. I'm back on.
No, you're gone again.
As we don't really have an alternative, I think that I will be happy to go with that. But it's difficult to find. I'm not a qualified planning engineer as Councillor Graham is, so she's able to argue the case supporting the officers. If it came to arguing about an engineering structure, then I think the shoe will be on the other foot. So I'm not qualified to argue that. But I think, as I said before, the report supports the application using the national standard, yet rejects it on our own standard. That is my view. My view might be completely incorrect. So as such, I'm happy to go along with what the officers said to approve it and allow the officers to delegate it to them to sort it out afterwards.
Is that okay with you, Councillor Sumner?
I'm happy to approve it as well, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm a bit surprised.
Delegation, you mean?
Yeah, delegation. Yeah. I'm a bit surprised. I only came back about Townley Hall.
Right. Well,
that's another thing. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'll do that vote first then. Well,
the vote is then Councillor Camp to voting to go against officer recommendation and approve the application with delegation to Paul Gattrell if the application is approved.
No, I'm against.
Right, okay. You are against approval.
I'm against.
Yeah,
well, yes, I'm with the officers. I agree with the officers.
You wish to refuse the application? Yeah.
Yes.
And Councillor Payne, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
I want to refuse the application.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Birtwistle, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Approve with delegation.
Councillor Gill, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Approve with delegation.
Councillor Sue Graham, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refuse as per officer recommendation.
Councillor Sarah Hall, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refuse.
Councillor John Harbour, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Alan Hosker, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Approve with delegation.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refuse.
Marcus Johnson, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Doris Town.
Councillor Lubna Khan, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Approve a delegation, please.
The proposal to approve the application is lost. It's not
Right.
it's not approved.
Yes. Right, yes, thank you. Right.
So Councillor Frank Cant, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Mark Payne, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Afraiz Anwar, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Approve.
Councillor Gordon Birtwistle, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
No.
Are we voting?
No,
I think Councillor Anwar's got it the wrong way around.
yeah, I think we're not approving the we're not approving the application, we're approving the officer recommendation.
Correct.
To refuse.
To
Correct.
refuse.
Councillor Anwar.
To refuse, yeah, I'm going to refuse, yeah. So I've got it the wrong way around, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Councillor Gordon Birtwistle, do you wish
I'm
to
against the
approve or
officer.
refuse?
I'm against the officer recommendation.
Councillor Peter Gill, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
I'm against the officer's decision on this one.
So you wish to approve the application?
No,
No.
that's wrong.
No, I'm against the officer's decision. Well, I'm against the refusal.
So you wish to refuse the application? Yes, okay. Councillor Sue Graham, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
The application should be refused as per the officer recommendation.
Councillor Sarah Hall, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse application.
Councillor John Harbour, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Alan Hosker, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Don't make much difference what we're saying now, does it? But refuse. I'd approve it.
Sorry, Councillor Alan Hosker, are you voting to approve or refuse the application?
Voting, I just said it doesn't matter what we're saying now, does it? But I'm voting to approve the application.
You're voting to approve, okay. Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, are you voting to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Marcus Johnson, are you voting to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Lubna Khan, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
Refused.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, do you wish to refuse or approve the application?
100% approve, please.
The application is refused.
Happy days for you.
Right, thank you.
Happy days.
Right, been a long night, but we're finally at the end. Land off Wire Street, Padiham. On this, I've got.
We have Jonathan Harper, Chair.
Oh yes, no, I have a speaker actually for this application.
Yes,
yeah,
Mr. Jonathan Harper.
Jonathan Harper, yeah. Yeah, have we got him with us?
Oh yes, here. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mr. Harper. You've got 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Harper of Rapley's Commercial Property and Planning Consultants, representing the applicant Lidl. I'm pleased that following close consultation with council officers that the application has been recommended for your approval this evening. As confirmed within the Planning Committee report, the application is recommended for approval on the following grounds. In regard to retail planning policy considerations, the council's officers have concluded that the application will improve the retail offer of Padiham and will not give rise to any significant adverse impacts on designated retail centres. In regard to design, Lidl have worked hard with the council to bring forward a proposal which will contribute positively to the surrounding area and which will enhance the site through the delivery of a modern and attractive building. In respect to highways, Lancashire County Council officers are fully satisfied that the proposal is acceptable in highways terms and provides appropriate parking and delivery provision. In regard to surrounding amenity, no objection has been raised by environmental health, and officers consider that no significant harm will be caused to the surrounding amenity through loss of privacy light or outlook, or from noise generated from either deliveries, customers, or the store's operation. Therefore, due to the points raised, following careful consideration of the proposal, council officers consider the application to be fully acceptable. There are a number of clear, tangible benefits of the scheme proposed, which should be noted. The development represents a significant investment by Lidl, which will undoubtedly boost the local economy and will result in the creation of up to 40 new full-time equivalent jobs, which carry particular importance at this present time. The proposal will result in this brownfield site being redeveloped, allowing it to provide a positive and active contribution to the area, and it will result in clear improvements to the visual appearance of the area through the delivery of an attractive and modern facility of high quality design and landscape. Therefore, the proposal fully accords with the key aims of national planning policy guidance, which promote a presumption in favour of sustainable development and encourage bodies involved in granting planning permission to prioritise both growth and jobs. On the basis of both the scheme's clear policy compliance and the officer recommendation within the committee report, we request that members determine the application in accordance with the officer recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Harper. The report tonight will be presented by Janet. Would you like to go ahead whenever?
Thank you, Chair. Just point out that there is some late correspondence that's been issued, and that lists a number of conditions which have been altered from the agenda report, and it also adds new conditions up to, so there's 27 conditions in all which are now recommended. It also reports on comments from the Archaeology Service at Lancashire County Council, which doesn't raise any objections, but recommends a condition of archaeological works in respect of the mill, which is currently on the site. Also, the applicant wishes to clarify that the proposal would generate up to 40 full-time jobs, up to 40 rather than an absolute figure of 40, as is portrayed in the committee report. So that was the late correspondence. I just thought it was worth just going through that quickly before I just summarise some parts from the report. So the site is 0.8 hectares, currently occupied by the former Enterprise Works and Unit 1 on the north side of Wire Street. The site bounds the edge of the Padiham Town Centre boundary on Clitheroe Street and is a short distance of 38 metres from the Padiham Conservation Area. The proposal is to redevelop the site with a discount food store, which would have a net sales floor area of 1,256 square metres, which would be for food retail sales with a 20% proportion, which is 251 square metres for non-food sales, which is a net floor area figure. The proposed store would sit at the easterly end of the site, as seen on the site layout, which is on page 79 of the agenda report. The proposed elevations are shown on page 80. Some changes were made in the course of the application to introduce glazing to the southern elevation, which faces Wire Street. The applicant has clarified that these glazed areas will be infill glazing panels only, with no view into the store. Whilst this is slightly disappointing, a condition is recommended to agree a suitable colour for the glazing, which will add interest to the street view. The proposal has been assessed against the retail planning policies of the local plan. Padiham is below Burnley in the retail hierarchy, where it has a supporting role. Policy TC2 states that convenience goods retailing should be located in the town centre, but where suitable sites are not available, they are required to be located following a sequential search of sites, with edge of centre sites being next in the sequence. Policy TC2 also imposes a local requirement for a retail impact assessment for proposals over 500 square metres, which is therefore relevant to this case. A planning and retail statement has been submitted to address these requirements. It finds no other sites, either within the town centre or closer than the proposed site, which immediately adjoins the town centre. It has looked at the impact on Padiham Town Centre and other centres within a 10-minute drive time. Excuse me. The main impact will be expected on Padiham Town Centre. It asserts that there are no other deeply discounted convenience stores in the town centre, and the type of store differs from the small independent, more artisan shops in the centre. The town centre is described as being in a healthy condition with a 8% vacancy rate, which is lower than the national average. It calculates a trade draw from the town centre of approximately 4%, which would not be significant. A high impact of up to 10% is indicated in respect of the adjacent larger Tesco store, but there would also be likely to be link trips, which will be of some benefit to that. Link trips with the town centre could also lead to benefits for the town centre. In addition, there is also the opportunity to claw back trade from local people who may currently travel further to similar discount food stores. The proposed development would, in these circumstances, have an acceptable impact on the town centre. The site is accessible by a variety of modes of transport. The traffic impacts have been assessed, taking into account the public realm improvements, which will remove the signalised junction at Burnley Road and Sowerby Street. The proposal would lead to a 3.5% increase in the peak period, PM period traffic, and 7.3% in the peak Saturday period traffic. Lancashire County Council is satisfied that this increase can be accommodated satisfactorily within the highway network. Some improvements are required to Wire Street, including the installation of a traffic island to facilitate pedestrian movements between Tesco and the proposed Lidl. And a condition is recommended to require this. Other impacts and policy requirements have been considered in the agenda report, which concludes that the proposal complies with the local plan policies and should be approved, subject to the 27 conditions recommended in the agenda report and in the late correspondence. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janet.
Chair,
so,
Councillor Hosker's requested to speak.
yeah, go ahead, Councillor Hosker.
Yeah, Chair, thank you for that. Subject to the recommendations and the conditions, what we've been asked for, and being county councillor for this area, I would recommend and put forward that this application be passed. Thank you.
Right, so yeah, so you moved it then, Councillor Hosker.
I have, thank you.
Councillor Payne and Councillor Harbour and Councillor Johnson have requested to speak as well.
Yeah, Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I've worked for discount retailers like Lidl and Aldi as a manager, and I guarantee the 40 jobs that they're offering will last for a month, and it will be half that, if not more. It will disappear. It's the way it works. It always does. They overman the stores at the beginning and then take them down. So don't expect those 40 jobs to be there for long. And the impact of a very, very hard-hitting discount retailer like Lidl on a small area like Padiham could be more than this report says. My experience, there's only so much money in Padiham. That store is going to take a good deal of money because people shop where it's cheaper. So all your independents are going to suffer. Your little factory warehouse shop will suffer. They'll all suffer from because they sell similar things. So personally, I think it's too much in such a small town, and I won't support it.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Right, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure I agree with what Councillor Payne has just said. When Tesco's first came, there was similar predictions that Padiham would be killed off. And in fact, Tesco has been beneficial to Padiham. That having been said, I do have concerns about this application, but not so much about the economic effect, more about highways. I'm very, very surprised at the LCC contribution. And I really do doubt that the existing road network can cope. At the moment, Padiham Town Centre is complete chaos because of the roadworks. I accept that won't last. But when we get back to normal, I do doubt that having yet another supermarket putting up to 108 cars onto two comparatively small streets feeding into Burnley Road is a good idea. The only mitigation which the County Council has suggested is a traffic island and better street lighting. I don't think that's good enough, Chair. So I would be interested to hear the officer's comments on that. But at the moment, my view would be reluctantly to vote against. I have no problem with the principle of development. I have no problem with the idea that Tesco's get a bit of competition in Padiham. I think that would be an exceedingly good thing. But my concern is that we are stacking up problems in terms of highways and access. And can I give you an example of how overlooking highways issues does cause problems? We granted plan permission for the new petrol station at Ganner Top on the former church site. If you remember, you all know where I am. Now, I don't know if anybody has tried to fill the car with petrol, buy coffee or whatever from there, and then get off that site. It is really, really difficult. The road network, quite frankly, in that area cannot cope with a big garage and a Starbucks. And we gave planning permission. We probably shouldn't have done. And I had nagging doubts at the time, but I voted in favour of it. That's why I'm speaking now, because I have nagging doubts. I think we've done a bad thing at Ganner Top. I think we've created traffic problems that didn't exist before. Go up there and look at the chaos there is outside that Esso service station. And my concern is we'll do something similar in Padiham. So I'm minded to vote against this at the moment on highways grounds. But I would be interested in hearing the officer's comments. And this is one of those times when it'd be very helpful to have someone from highways present.
Right, thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Harbour, Chair.
Councillor Harbour.
Yes, thank you, Chair. At this moment in time, Chair, I'm mindful to support this application, and there's a number of reasons for that. I think when you actually look at the report and all the planning grounds are there, all the strategic bodies, what we consult, have shown no any worries about this application. I appreciate what Councillor Johnson said about highways, and I had some concerns about that, but the traffic assessments, etc., seem to think that we can handle it. I also believe that within the report on page 89, there's a section 278 agreement being as a condition regarding for improvements from junctions and footway improvements around the site. The public realm's been mentioned, and again, that this is an important thing, not just for Lidl and Tesco's, but for the town itself. Councillor Payne quite understandably talks about the effect on other businesses within the town. My opinion is that public realm, what's going on there, will improve the offer of a shopping experience in Padiham. The one wonderful thing we have in Padiham is that we've got a strong independent retail sector, and they are quite resilient. They've been on that block now and seen how that block looks off-putting to many visitors, but they've stayed there and they have a loyal base of customers. And I'm confident that when that public realms work's finished and the improvements to the heritage buildings along there, Padiham will have something different to offer people. It won't just be about coming to shop at Lidl. It won't just be coming to shop at Tesco. There's an all-round offer there. What I would ask, if this is approved, that I'm not just sure when they get approval, they have a 3-year period to start to complete the building. I have no idea what the applicant has in mind to start that process. While all these improvements are going on, I suspect that might be a good time to do it, and we can get it all done at once. But I'm sure that the applicant will liaise with LCC Highways and find a way which suits everybody. I also note, Chair, that there's no Section 106 agreement there, and to be fair to the applicant, I don't think it's ever been asked of them. But again, what I'm mindful to ask for, and it's not a condition, it's just a request, that if this is approved, it would be wonderful, in my opinion, if Lidl could contribute something to the public realm of what's going on within Padiham. All the infrastructure is being put in place. What we're trying to do when all this work is completed is to have a softening of that area, i.e. with flower displays, with a greening, softer approach to the town. So if Lidl do get permission, I think a contribution to that will be well received by the people of Padiham. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Harbour.
Chair, Councillor Graham's requested to speak.
Yep, and Councillor Graham, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I too think that this will be a good development for Padiham. I know there were a lot of naysayers when Tesco was proposing to come into the town, and I think that they've been pretty much proved wrong over the last few years, because it's kind of maintained the viability of Padiham Town Centre. People, I guess, go to Tesco's and then they also go to the florist or whatever in the town centre. I don't share Councillor Payne's pessimism about the jobs. I mean, in the current situation, any jobs coming into Padiham will be a good thing, because we're going to be losing so many in Burnley and Padiham over the next few months and years. So I would be happy to vote for approval of this application. Can I just remind members who perhaps weren't on planning when it happened that refusing the Tesco application, which is what we did in the first place, cost the authority tens of thousands of pounds in an appeal that went nowhere, and was proved to be a false dawn. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. As I recall, Councillor Oscar has moved the application. I know a few people have spoken.
Chair, can I just come back in a minute, please, mate? Can I just come back in?
You can come back in, yes. Did you move the application?
I did move the application, but I just want to say something first before it's considered, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I just want to come back on 2 points. First of all, Councillor Johnston's comments. What I will also say to you, Councillor Johnston, is I was born in Padiham, and when you're on about traffic as a concern, let's remember we used to have main gas there at one time, and there was some traffic what used to come from main gas, and we always caught very favourably. And in response to John Arbor's comment for the 106 money, I think it's a good request, and I didn't think about, but John Arbor did, and I think it would be nice if he could contribute towards it. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But do we have a seconder for Councillor Hosker's motion? Yeah. I'll take that, Councillor Graham.
Chair.
Yes.
Janet Philbin has requested to give a point of clarification, and Councillor Johnson has also requested.
Yeah, right. To bring Janet in first.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to respond to the question that was put about Lancashire County Council and their assessment of the traffic impacts of the application. I can confirm that they have studied the transport assessment carefully submitted by the applicant. They have modelled it themselves against the new junction with the new public realm improvements at the junction of Burnley Road and Sowerby Street. And they are confident that the additional traffic that was generated from this proposal can be accommodated at that junction and at the Waddington Street junction as well. Obviously, there's other considerations that we have to bear in mind. We also have to bear in mind that this is virtually a town centre site. It bounds the town centre. It's accessible, therefore, for pedestrians, for other visitors to the town centre. To people using public transport, it's 100 metres from the bus stop. There's also a travel plan with the application, which will help to promote sustainable modes of transport for members of staff at the store. Also, just remind you that on page 88, there's it states that paragraph 109 of the NPPF states development should only be prevented or refused on transport grounds if there would be an unacceptable impact on highway safety or the residual cumulative impacts on the road network would be severe. So the test is if it would be severe. There's no indication at all in this that it would be severe. And as I said, it's a sustainable location. Just on another point that was raised about a contribution, obviously at this stage it's too late to put that request to the applicant in time to make a decision on the application. All I can suggest is that the request that has been made is put forward in a more informal way, but is not part of any decision of this application. Thank you, Chair.
Right, yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. My laptop's about to die, so I'm going to be brief. Councillor Hosker made reference to main gas. Main gas was shift changes once a couple of times a day. This is a supermarket; it'll generate traffic all day, so that's not really relevant. The traffic assessments at the petrol station at Ganna Top all said it's going to be fine, it's going to be great, it's going to be wonderful. Well, it's not fine, it's not great, it's not wonderful. The road network at Ganna Top cannot cope with what we have given planning permission for. And I think exactly the same thing is going to happen here. I would actually like to see this development, and I am opposing it with the greatest of reluctance, because I think it would be a good thing for Padiham. But that having been said, I think we've already made one mistake again at top. I don't want us to see another one. And how on earth the county council can say that the existing road network is fine, let's put a traffic island and some new lights up, is beyond me. I can guarantee you that when this is built, that end of Padiham will be chaos.
Right, thank you, Councillor Johnson. With no further comments, it's been moved and seconded, so.
Chair, it was first moved and seconded to refuse the application. So I will need to take the vote to refuse the application first.
Sorry, Chair, can I?
No, thank you.
I thought I put another right to speak in. Can you just check that?
Only me and Councillor Johnson spoken against this, and neither of us moved or seconded anything to refuse the application.
I haven't moved anything, Chair. I intend to vote against.
Right, sorry.
Neither did I, Councillor Johnson.
I
Sorry,
haven't moved anything. I don't think you have either, have you, Chair?
Okay. Right, okay, so I'll take the vote to approve the application.
John Harbour's ready to speak.
I'll let Councillor Harbour come in, and I wasn't aware of his request to speak.
Thank you, Chair. You can get the officers to check afterwards, but I thought I had put it in properly. I just want to clear up, Chair, something what I might have said earlier. I thought I made myself clear regarding the section 106. I never for 1 minute thought we should try and. I never thought for 1 minute we should try and impose that now. And I thought I said that in my previous remarks. But I did say it would be a gesture from Lidl if they did get permission to make a contribution to the public realm. But I must stress that's not a condition, and it will be unfair on the applicant. Also, can I just make clear as far as the Councillor Payne's remarks earlier? I think the officer made it clear at the beginning of the report when they were talking about the 40 jobs. They aren't 40 guaranteed jobs. I think the officer came in and said up to 40 jobs. So I just wanted to make that clear, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, right, can we go? It has been moved and seconded. It was moved by Councillor Hosker, seconded by Councillor Graham. So can we go to the vote, please?
Yes. Councillor Cant, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Approve.
Councillor Mark Payne, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Refuse.
Councillor Anwar, do you wish to approve or refuse the application?
Approve.
Councillor Birtwistle, for approval or refusal of the application?
Approve.
Councillor Peter Gill, for approval or refusal?
Abstain.
Councillor Sue Graham, for approval or refusal of the application?
Approve the application.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Hall, for approval or refusal of the application? Abstain. Thank you. Councillor John Harbour, for refusal or approval of the application?
Approve.
Councillor Alan Hosker, for approval or refusal of the application?
Easiest decision I've done all night. Approve.
Councillor Mohammed Ishtiaq, approval or refusal of the application?
Approve.
Councillor Marcus Johnson, approve or refuse the application?
Refuse with regret.
Councillor Lubna Khan, approve or refuse the application?
Approve.
And Councillor Jeff Sumner, approve or refuse the application?
With the prospects of future jobs being made, I will be voting for approval.
Thank you. The application is approved, thank you.
Right, thank you very much to everyone. So I've almost concluded the meeting. On this occasion, with no part 2 for you to read. And with
No, Chair.
No.
No.
So I'll just thank everybody for what's been a rather interesting meeting and a long meeting, and I wish you all a good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Good
Yep.
night.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Just about to die on me.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.